Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
कैसे कर सकता है ये शादी?
अरे मम्मी
नहीं ना, कैसे कर सकता है ये?
All right, so we're starting up where we left off last week, and my hypothesis is something's going on with the mom. I don't know what's going on. It seems like, for the first time to my eyes, the family dynamic does not seem to be that supportive of the mom. In the past, they seem to be completely on the side of the mom. I mean, the dad seemed to be a little softer, a little bit more reasonable, but now it really does seem like the dad, the brother, the sister-in-law are all looking at the mom and saying, stop it, they're married, let's move forward. But I could be reading that wrong.
कैसे कर सकता मैं जिंदगी हुई मेरे को इतनी ऊपर से ये तड़पाता रहा है मेरे को.
Okay, that's interesting. I wonder what the history there is. It's possible, like with Jabri, I remember hypothesizing that the mom's reactivity to Jabri getting married seemed overblown, I think, to a lot of people. And it made me wonder if the mom was used to Jabri making a lot of mistakes and shooting himself in the foot, things that we would agree with and say, yeah, he did shoot himself in the foot in those instances. And the mom was, at ground zero dealing with all that and pleading with him to not, and then he would, and then she would have to be there to pick up the pieces. And then when Jabri takes an action that is, say, slightly risky and maybe a little bit questionable, the mom, Jabri's mom, was used to seeing it as a disaster and a huge risk because that's what would happen in the past. I wonder if that's what's happened, and I don't know about that, about the mom, of course, but it's possible that Sumit's mom similarly has a history with Sumit making terrible mistakes, and that those mistakes were real, things that we might be able to say, oh yeah, that was a huge mistake by Sumit. And the mom did have reasons to yell at him and do everything in her power to prevent him from doing those things. And she's just slotting all of that onto this situation, which isn't uncommon for parents to do. Once parents get into a mindset of my kid is a screw up, or I need to protect my child from themselves, it's really hard for them to get out of that. I think for some parents, I don't know about Sumit's mom. I mean, I suspect Sumit's mom, it comes from her childhood in some way, in all likelihood. There seems to be a lot more going on. That's what's going on. But in families that I would treat, it wouldn't be unusual for, say, a kid to have a lot of problems at the age 13, 14, 15. That's usually when everything would go wrong. As a family therapist, the vast majority of the families that I was treating, it was problems with a 14-year-old. The problems would begin kind of at 12, usually definitely at 13. 14 is when the problems would really blossom out of control. 15 is when they might be totally out of control. Then things would usually get better, 16, 17, 18, 19. By the time the kid was even 17, usually things would start wrapping up to some extent, even without therapy. Anyway, point is that it wouldn't be uncommon for a parent, having gone through those difficult years, say the kid wants to get their license and buy a car and has a recent track record of being responsible enough. And the parent is just in this mindset of, no, I need to reduce all risks from this child's life because any risk will lead to horrible things happening. And so the parent will unreasonably say, you can't get a license, you can't drive, da-da-da. And the kid's like, hey, I wanted to, and then it causes more conflict, which causes more reason for the kid to rebel, causes more bond problems. So the mom said that. She's like, he's constantly screwing up my life. Now, there's another possibility that Sumit has done nothing to screw up her life. But because of her schemas from her early childhood, she transfers or displaces that onto him. That for the mom, someone screwed up her life. Someone harmed her. Someone did things that were harmful to themselves, and it impacted her indirectly. She is displacing that onto this situation because she hasn't gained awareness of that trauma and has not healed from it yet. That would be my primary hypothesis.
ये इसने
अरे
जिंदगी हुई मुझे रुलाते रुलाते।
अरे मम्मी,
एक लेडी को खुश
छोड़
करने
दो,
के लिए
अभी
दूसरे
छोड़
को
दो।
इतना दुख दे रहा है।
Again, I just do not understand, and I know that this is common in around the world, arranged marriages, or at least the high pressure from parents to marry the particular person. I mean, in my neck of the woods, kids can date and marry whoever they want, and parents almost have no say in the matter in my neck of the woods. So it's such a contrast. But I think my neck of the woods cultural pocket is actually rare if you consider all 8 billion people around the planet. So their way of doing things, I think, is more quote unquote normal. But it's just so hard to relate to. I mean, she's just like, he's ruining my life. He's destroying all of us because he married someone. Like, and then just think Sumit, just the pain. Look at that, the pain they just going through. It's just how hurtful it is. Because he wants to have a good relationship with his mom. He wants to please her. Now, I think a lot of American kids would, at this point, just say, we're done. It wouldn't negate the pain, but I think people in my neck of the woods have a much easier time saying, well, we're done. Well, I don't even know if that's, I think they'll do it in a different way. They would not sit through a conversation like this in all likelihood. They'd be like, get out of my house, that kind of thing. But the pain would still be there. And yeah, I feel bad for Sumit. I think his strategy might actually be the best, or at least a viable one, where he's like, I'm going to take my lumps. I'm going to sit here and hopefully people will come around. Like, but if I blow up, then it'll really end the chance of us having a good relationship. And I don't want that, which might be the lesser of several evils.
शांति,
जिसने दर्दों से पैदा किया, जिसने पैदा किया, उसको तड़फा रहा है। इसको कितने साल का रिश्ता है इससे?
10 years? 9 years? How long has he even known her? As long as you have, because the first time she came out, she stayed with them in their home, and Jenny and the mom were friendly. And so y'all have known her for at least 9 years, if not 10, if not more than that. How long has he even known her? How long did he know his wife, the one that you arranged to? I don't know.
10 साल से आप मान गए क्या? उतने पे तो माँ बाप तो वैसे ही पिघल जाते हैं।
गलत बात के लिए माँ बाप कभी राजी नहीं
मानते हैं। हाँ,
आधी उम्र का फर्क
हाँ,
तेरे।
बिल्कुल है।
बेटा तू हमारा ही बच्चा है क्या?
हाँ.
Yeah, good. That Sumit isn't getting into. He's like, you're right. She is twice my age. You're right. She could be my mother in terms of age. And I just, you know, I've talked about this before, but in brief, I just don't understand that way of thinking of she's old enough to be your mother. Well, she's not my mother. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just say I have a student who could be my mother. Does that mean I can't be their professor? Do you know? Or if my boss is young enough to be my child, does that mean it's this weird situation where I have my child is now my boss? No. I mean, once you're past a certain age, we're all just adults. So just knock it off. He's 33. She's 63. I just don't understand that mindset. I understand it's weird. It's different to have that age difference. But empirically, I want to remind everyone, I've looked into it. I looked into all the research. There is nothing empirically, scientifically, factually wrong with an age difference like theirs in a relationship. Nothing at all. Nothing. Of course, there's nothing wrong with it. They're both adults. Everything's fine. Knock it off.
नहीं कि तू हमारा बेटा है। किसी चीज में तेरे को ना बुलाएंगे। हम मरे, मम्मी पापा कोई मरेगा, कोई भी।
I know many of you know about this cultural element, and maybe you can comment below and let me know.
I don't understand what Sumit's mom is saying right now, but it doesn't seem like it's going very well. But I did understand that she's still denying that she ever said that she loved me. That's very hurtful.
I'm remembering an hypothesis I had when we were watching before, which was, this is a complete shot in the dark, that the mom, when she was younger, was a more freer spirit, that she wanted to marry who she wanted to, or wanted to do what she wanted to do. And society and her family forced her to do something else. And so she had to suppress the part of her that was self-interested, and she had to comply with society, and she had to give up a part of herself or internalize the abusive societal element. And so there's this battle going on inside of her of, no, you must comply or else you must comply. But there's an inner child of her that's saying, but I want to do something else. And so she feels like, I made this sacrifice. You know, it's similar to, in my field, how we have internships, unpaid internships. Almost everyone in my field, when they start out as a therapist, as a psychotherapist, they are unpaid for the first number of months, maybe even 1 or 2 years, usually around a year of working. Imagine that. Sometimes part-time, sometimes full-time, usually part-time. But imagine working a part-time job and you are in the middle of getting your master's. So, you know, it's not like you're a 13-year-old trying to get into a business, right? And you're fully trained and fully supported, and you are paying nothing. In fact, you are paying to be at an internship because there are usually fees associated with getting credit for it, this sort of thing. And there's total injustice on that. Now, what people will say is, you need to pay the interns. And if we did that, if we actually did pay the interns, because usually it's at community mental health agencies, the community mental health agencies would go out of business, or they wouldn't be able to have interns. They would have to get rid of the interns. But they'd probably actually go out of business, because in order for them to get enough money to keep everyone that is getting paid employed, they have to have this free labor force that is an adjunct to their overall labor force. And you say, well, that's wrong. Well, yeah, the reason why that is happening is because we do not vote for politicians who allocate funds for these kinds of services, for therapy. We also don't vote for politicians that create or embolden or empower the regulatory mechanisms within our government to crack down on insurance companies to make sure that they reimburse for this kind of therapy. So the fact that we have unpaid interns is not the fault of the employers. It's the fault of us as voters and politicians and this kind of thing. So if we want to pay interns, we have to actually raise taxes and pay. Anyway, but my point is that you have a lot of therapists like myself who did have an internship at one point. And I think in the medical field, there's a similar kind of issue, not necessarily unpaid internships, but early hardships as a burgeoning professional in that field. It's not uncommon for people at my stage to be like, well, I had to go through an unpaid internship, so everyone else should as well. If I had to do it, it's unfair that the new people don't have to do it, right? That kind of attitude. And I wonder if for the mom, she has a similar attitude, or maybe a lot of people, maybe a lot of her friends are also in this zone where they're thinking, I had to give up my dreams. I had to suppress my hopes and my wants and my needs. I had to give in to society. And I'll be damned if the next generation is going to get away with doing what they want to do. It's a total shot in the dark speculation, total speculation about the mom. I have no idea, but it is another hypothesis that I would have. And if I were a family therapist, one of the things I would go for is trying to access the mom's inner child, to try to help her to be able to live the life that she wants to live. And if she were able to do that, which I don't know if that's inside of her, then maybe she wouldn't have so much energy around attacking Sumit for living his life.
अगले जन्म में तेरे को पता लगेगा.
And I will say that Sumit and Jenny are being very differentiated, meaning that there's probably a lot of impulse to defend or get angry, and they're not doing it. They're saying, that's not what's best. What's best, my overall goal is to have this go better than otherwise, and I'm not going to get engaged. I'm not going to get entangled. I'm just going to, I still have those feelings, and those are okay. I'm not going to shame those feelings, but I'm not going to let them guide my behavior in this moment, because ultimately that's not what I want to do.
It feels like somebody put your hand in your mouth and rip your heart out of your chest. My biggest fear is to get disowned by my family. I don't know how to exist without my mother.
Yeah. And I'm guessing a lot of people watching, especially people in my neck of the woods, would say, what? You don't know how to exist with your mother is the primary antagonist of your life. If this was a movie of good and evil, your mom is the villain and you are the protagonist. Now, of course, that's not true. The mom, I'm guessing, has a lot of good moments with her son. They don't show it on this show, but I'm sure that's happening. I'm guessing it's happening. I hope it's happening. So that's maybe people in my neck of the woods perspective, but for a lot of people, including myself to some extent, the bond and the hopes and the meaning of your relationship with your parents, it runs deeper than convenience or conflict. And so he desperately wants to have a good relationship with her, and the mom, I think, knows that and is using that against him, either consciously or unconsciously.
And without my mom, I'm outcast here in India.
अब शक्ल भी मत दिखाना घर पे और ना देखना, बस इतना कह रही हूँ, जा रही हूँ कहने.
तो फिर उसको अपनाओगे या नहीं अपनाओगे कभी भी?
नहीं.
Yeah, she's completely going back on what she said last season, the previous season that they were on. She did not say, if you marry her, if you guys get married, I'm going to disown you, I'm never going to talk. She didn't say that. She said, I don't want it to happen, but I will not stop you from doing it. Now, maybe in her mind, she's like, yeah, I'm not going to stop you because I can't, but I will disown you. I mean, it didn't seem like that's what she was saying. So I wonder what happened there. And maybe that does give some hope that she could return to that place because she was at some point at that place. But overall, looking at the whole story, soon after that conversation with the astrologer, she changes her mind, the mom, temporarily. At the tell-all, she was right back to all this stuff. So it makes me think that at the time when she was being nice to the two of them, relative to the past. I mean, just imagine that you had a parent. I mean, that's the nice version of that mom, that the mom is like, I hate the fact that you're marrying this person, but I'm not going to stop you. That's the best you could get. I mean, normally you want your parents there crying at your wedding and supporting everything. So it makes me wonder if the mom was faking that perspective at the time, that she felt pressured by the astrologer or something. And she's like, okay, I'll force myself to say these things, but deep down, I haven't really changed. It seems that way, doesn't it?
तो जिंदगी में परेशान रहोगे?
हाँ, इससे खुश है ना? बस यही है तेरी जिंदगी में? इससे खुश रहे तू. इससे जितना प्यार का, माँ का, बहन का, बाप का, भाई का, भाभी का, जो प्यार देना है, इसको दे. हमें तेरे प्यार की और तेरे रहम की हमें जरूरत नहीं है.
It's just so messed up. I'd be open to someone telling me that this is normal in this culture or any culture. I just don't understand this. There's lots of things one can say about like, well, I really don't approve of this, and I'm really disappointed, but I still love you, and I can't stop thinking about how people continue, but more so in the past in my neck of the woods, you would have gay people who would come out as gay and they were in a relationship, and this would be the exact same conversation. They would say, we're done with you, you're killing me, I can't believe you're making this choice, we're going to cut you off, and fine, you've made your choice, you're going to love that person, well, then we're done. Isn't it similar?
मेरे को तो जरूरत है.
कदम नहीं रख देना रोहिणी के अंदर.
ऐसा नहीं चाहिए था कि आप एक बार मम्मी को बताओ.
उन्हें अपने माँ बाप को परेशान करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
I'm not at all happy. It will be very difficult for my mom to handle this situation.
So you hear that for the son, he's saying, the brother, he's saying, I'm not very happy. For my mom, it's going to be very difficult. We don't hear it's going to be difficult for me. So I wonder if they are all indoctrinated into the mom's world because of her intensity and the way she reacts, that they can't separate themselves from that they have handed themselves over, which could also explain a little bit of Sumit's ambivalence over the years. I would say that he certainly tried for 10 years now to convince the mom. And I think a lot of people, even in this culture, I think would have said, well, she's never going to come around, so let's move forward. And I don't know, but we have families, I've treated families, where you have someone with a personality disorder who has indoctrinated everyone into their world. So their reactivity when you're in a family, you're a family member, and you have an abusive personality disordered parent, and you have two choices. You can either stay in reality and fight it and struggle, or you can just hand yourself over to that mindset and accept it and don't question it, don't really even try to think about it, and even adopt it, because your life goes so much better if you do that. And you don't have to go to sleep at night thinking, why am I here? What's happening? You're just like, everything's normal, everything's fine. And I wonder if that's what's happening here.
People, they'll make fun of her, and
They have a great impact on her.
Okay, so they're pointing that out, which I believe, and they were talking about that earlier, that it's not just her with this attitude, the whole community has this attitude. And so when they find out that they're married, they will make fun of her, and it will have a huge impact. And that might even be minimizing or not fully describing the social impact that this will have on her and the family. That it's not just like people snickering at her. It might be total rejection by her community, by her church, or whatever. And if you are from a culture, from a society, from a mindset that really values your community's acceptance and being in harmony with that, then this could be a real central antagonist to the meaning of your life. And I think that's absolutely possible. And then, so all my discussions and, I don't know, upsetness about the mom's attitude could be misplaced from the society at large, that the community that they live in, it's really their fault and not the mom's fault. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.